One of our favorite YouTubers in the world went on a very interesting racial Twitter rant this week, and we are breaking it down. Tyler Oakley.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the content or the context was of what he was saying, but this is what he tweeted. Maybe instead of replying to this to justify your racism, look inward as to why you choose to write off millions of people based on race. He was talking about if you don't think that an entire race is attractive, then you must be racist. He said an entire race of people not your type isn't just a preference, it's just racism. Not here to argue, just informing. And then he said, quote, I can't help what I'm attracted to, end quote. Let's dissect the why. Society makes beauty standards, favors whiteness, so your preference is actually prejudice. And he ended it by saying, to those saying that my argument implies that gay people are maybe sexist since they won't date people outside of their gender, he says sexual orientation is not a choice. Writing off an entire race is. So we are here to break it down. What do you guys think of this? If you don't like another race, are you being racist?
I have to say, honestly, I love that Tyler sent out these tweets, and I really like him in general. Well, I love him in general, full disclosure, we are friends. But I like the fact that he's using his celebrity to conjure up these kind of conversations that I think are really, really important to have. And truth be told, this really opened my eyes. I hadn't thought of this conversation in this way before, and I think it is an important conversation to be having. And it's really got my wheels turning in general, which I think is great.
What's so interesting is that you've never really thought about this, and I hadn't either, but just this weekend I was meeting with a girlfriend of mine who goes to my church, and my church is so multicultural. Literally, black people date white people date Mexican people, Mexican people date black people, like everyone is, there is no boundaries there. And we were talking, and she told me, she's a white girl, and she said, you know, for the longest time, I only dated white guys, and I thought my husband was going to be blonde hair and blue-eyed. She's like, then I started really thinking about it, and I felt convicted that that was racism. She's like, I had to face the fact that I was racist. And I just like looked at her because she's not racist at all in her actions and how she treats people. She's so loving to anyone and everyone, and I thought, she's not racist for just not dating like a black guy. But then she started talking to me about it, and she's like, you know, I feel like I was only looking at people based on their skin tone. She's like, I wasn't judging people based on their characters. I would shut opportunities out to date really good guys because they weren't white guys. And she's like, and it wasn't that I hated anybody else of any other ethnicity. I just, my preference, I told myself, was a white guy with blue eyes. She's like, but she's dating an Indian guy who she's gonna marry, and she's so in love with him. But it was a really interesting conversation to have, because like you had never thought about this, but lots of people are having this conversation and dealing with this.
Well, I think if you're running around saying, I will not date an Indian guy or a black guy, and you're not of that race, that sounds racist. But if you're not just attracted to, say, black guys, like I've never dated a black guy, I don't think that makes me racist. I think I would say that is unfair if somebody was like, you're racist because you've never dated a black guy. Do you know what I'm saying? But I guess I wasn't thinking about it in the grand scheme of if it's hard.
It's really interesting, I was going to say, because I think a lot of it might have to do with people who they're dating, who they're even around in general. So if you grow up in a community that's primarily one culture or one race, like those are probably the people you're going to end up dating when you're young, at least, because those are the people you're around. I know personally for myself, I grew up in a very, very multicultural environment with a lot of different races and backgrounds. So like I'm just like, you're hot, you're hot, you're hot, you're hot, which is really cool. But I think some people, depending on where you're from, don't have that as an option. But I think I agree with you to say like, oh, that's not my type. I think this whole conversation has really opened my eyes to that really possibly being a form of racism.
I'm glad we're having a conversation about racism, because I feel like systemic racism is at its worst when it is subtle and lives inside of you and you're not even aware of your own racist tendencies. So I'm glad that Tyler Oakley brought this up, but I'll also say I don't agree with him. I think there's an overlap in that there are some racist people who won't date another race because they are racist. I also think there are people who are not racist and also just happen to not be attracted to a certain race. I don't know.
But to shut yourself out and say,
I
like,
won't.
Never.
I will not.
Never.
I think it's time to take a step back and ask yourself and have a personal moment with yourself, like, why am I saying that? Is it because maybe there is an underlying racism that maybe I'm not willing to think about or talk about with myself, not with other people?
If we're talking about sexual attraction specifically, though, like if you're bringing who you are attracted to, like I can't just one day say, oh, I'm going to be attracted to girls because mentally I'm just not.
Right.
So I don't think I could also be like, oh, I'm going to be attracted to an Indian if I mentally was not. So I think sexuality
agree.
and racism also play this different line. Like earlier, we were talking in the makeup room and you were saying, oh, like you
Does it
could
make
date
you
a
sexist if you don't date a gender?
because you were saying like, oh, you could date a girl, but that's not what you want to do or what's going to satisfy you.
Right. So
I
you
feel
can you can control the action of whether you don't date or date a group of people, but you can't actually control if organically you're attracted to those people. You can
Like the
force
primal
yourself to
instinct.
date girls, but that doesn't mean that you're attracted to them, and you can't control that part.
Right.
So you could force yourself to date someone outside of your race or someone in your race. Okay. The weird thing with me is I don't generally date Hispanics. I've dated everything else: Asian guys, black guys, Middle Eastern guys. I don't generally date my own culture, and I'm not racist against Hispanics. And I think we also have to remember the definition of racism is feeling that one race is superior to another. And I think it's dangerous to collapse that with, oh, I just happen to not be attracted to another race that I think is equal.
If there was a Hispanic guy who was that you and him connected on a personality level that's deeper than the fact that, oh, you are Hispanic, so I don't date that type. If there is a person, you would totally date a Hispanic guy, correct?
Sure. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I'm not like, no, I hate my people.
So I think that might be sort of what Tyler's going at. I can't.
we don't know the
speak to
context.
him.
Like,
I don't know the context.
We don't know what sparked him writing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like if you're not if a race isn't your type.
Yeah,
that's
but
racist.
if I walk around and say and believe I don't date black guys, that seems like it could be stemming from a racial thing that someone hasn't addressed. Versus like I haven't dated a black guy. I'm open to that idea. That's not I don't think that means you're racist. I just think you haven't found the right person yet.
Or like we were saying before, maybe it hadn't actually crossed your mind. Like I grew up in Utah where there weren't it was prominently white people, and like Jocelyn was saying, if you're growing up and there's everyone everywhere, you fall in love with whoever's around. So maybe subconsciously some people are choosing what they find familiar to date without even thinking out of the box, being like, oh, this might be a little bit racist, but hopefully people can open their eyes and be like, oh, love is love, and at the end of the day, I hope you fall in love with someone because what you feel with that person rather than what color their skin is.
Honestly, you shouldn't not want to date people of certain races. You're keeping yourself from meeting some really awesome people. If you're single out there and it hasn't been working out for you, maybe you should broaden your horizons a little bit, because there might be someone in a different race you haven't dated yet that might be the person for you.
Yeah, like instead of going for what you already know, go for what's new and exciting and you can learn from. I love interracial relationships. But so when I first moved to LA, my mentor was this girl named Wendy who turned into a big TV star. I won't name
Wendy
her last name.
Williams?
No, it's everyone. It's everyone.
I mean, like, how you do it?
But she is a light-skinned black girl, and she only liked dating dark-skinned black guys because she felt like dark-skinned black guys are undervalued. And she was like, well, I'm going to get me a black guy and have babies with them. And then she did, and they lived happily ever after. And at first I was like, is she being racist against white people? And then I was like, no, she's not. And what you were saying about what you grow up with, Jocelyn grew up around a lot of Hispanics, and she dated a lot of hot Mexican guys, and kudos for you. And
hey, I feel pretty lucky. Just saying. No, but I think, if the idea of even having a type in general, it's like if I was like, this is my type, I know what it is, like, wouldn't I just walk out and find that person? But really, you don't know what your quote-unquote type is because you would be with that person. Why is everyone single? I'm just saying, that's why.
If I've learned anything about
open your world.
Is that whatever you think your type is probably the complete opposite of that. Like, what you're actually going to be with is probably a lot different than what you're thinking in your head.
Honestly, I'm so glad that there are biracial marriages and relationships and families, because if there wasn't, then I wouldn't be here. My dad is white, my mom is Native American, and there is so much my dad faced a lot of heat from certain people in our family, in our community, because he was dating an Indian girl, Native American girl, and my mom was kind of fair skinned. Obviously, you can look at me and tell that my coloring is very much like my dad's. But even that, they were like, it doesn't matter. Like, she kind of looked white, full blood, Native American, that's who she is. But they were like, no, you can't date her. So my dad was like, screw all of you people, I'll date who I want. So, I mean, I think it just takes people opening themselves up to just seeing what else is out there in the world. Because you just, you never know.
Well said. Right. That is beautiful.
We need more Aarons in the world.
Right. And more Aaron's parents in the world. Courageous people who try new things. By the way, little weird thing. This might sound awkward. I kind of only date one race at a time. Like, suddenly I'll be like, I love Indian men. And then I only date Indian men for like 6 months. And then it'll be like, Nigerian men is where it's at. Is that racist?
No, because
Am
you're trying all of them.
It's a sampler platter.
Try all of them.
Yeah, I think it's
It's just like an appetizer platter.
You just got to try them all.
You're trying out everybody.
You guys, let us know what you think in the comment section below on this kind of loaded question.
Yes.
I just hope at the end of the day love wins, but let us know what you think in the comment section below. And then, hey, you guys, you could click over to the left to find out about Vine dying.
Is it dead? And is Kylie Jenner replacing Kim Kardashian? That is over on the right.